All right, so welcome to the deep dive. We're going deep today, diving into a collection of Korean language news reports from Voice of America, all dated February 14, 2025.
Oh, wow.
It's like your own personal intelligence briefing, kind of pulling back the curtain on some surprising geopolitical developments.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, so get this. We've got reports of North Korean troops fighting in Ukraine, Trump's back in the picture making waves about nuclear weapons, and there are some serious questions about South Korea's potential nuclear ambitions.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, ready to dive in.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, so these reports give us a glimpse into a world in flux.
Yeah, like the old rules, they don't seem to apply anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's like watching a high-stakes game of chess unfold in real time, and one of the biggest moves comes from, you guessed it, Donald Trump. He's announced his intention to broker peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine.
Now, that might sound like a good thing at first.
Right.
But when you think about the reports of North Korean special forces fighting alongside Russian troops in Ukraine, well, it raises a whole bunch of new questions.
For sure. So let's talk about those North Korean troops. The reports say over 11,000 were deployed to the Kursk region of Ukraine, with casualty estimates around 4,000. That's a lot of troops.
It is a lot. And it's even more interesting when you consider that North Korea has officially denied any involvement in the conflict.
So if Trump does manage to broker a peace deal, what happens to those troops? Do they just vanish?
Yeah, I mean, where do they go? And how does this impact any potential peace talks? Could this be Trump's way of opening back-channel communications with North Korea, even if it's unofficial?
That's a good point. It's possible, right? I mean, Trump's always been known for his unconventional diplomacy. And we know from his previous presidency, he did engage directly with Kim Jong-un, even meeting him face to face.
That's true. But this time it's more complicated because of those North Korean troops in Ukraine. Kim Jong-un could use them as leverage, demand concessions from Russia to get them out.
That's a really interesting thought. It wouldn't be surprising, would it?
Not at all. Kim Jong-un can be pretty pragmatic and opportunistic when he needs to be.
Okay, so we've got Trump potentially using the Ukraine situation to engage with North Korea, but let's not forget about South Korea. A recent global survey showed a huge jump in experts who think South Korea could develop nuclear weapons within the next decade, moving them up to third on the list. That's a pretty big jump from last year.
It is big. And I think it shows how anxious South Korea is about the changing world. They're facing threats not only from North Korea, but also from China and Russia. And then there's the uncertainty around U.S. foreign policy, especially with Trump back in the mix.
It's a lot to deal with. You can see why they might be feeling the pressure to boost their own defenses, even if that means thinking about the nuclear option. I mean, they're basically surrounded by nuclear powers.
Exactly. And we have to think about the economic side of things, too. South Korea has strong economic ties with the U.S., particularly in things like cars and semiconductors. Those ties could become really important in the trade tensions that are happening right now.
Especially with those new tariffs Trump put on steel and aluminum imports. That's not just about the metal itself. It's a sign that bigger trade battles might be coming and South Korea could get stuck in the middle.
Absolutely. It puts them in a tough spot. They need to stay friends with the U.S. economically, but also manage their relationship with China, a huge trading partner and a powerful force in the region. It's a tricky balancing act.
So what do you think this means for South Korea? Are they really close to going nuclear?
Well, I wouldn't say they're right on the edge just yet, but those survey results definitely show a change in thinking both inside South Korea and among people watching them internationally. The idea of a nuclear-armed South Korea is becoming more real, and that has huge implications for stability in the region.
Yeah, for sure. It's a situation we need to keep a close eye on.
All right.
So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this. Stay with us. So it's pretty wild, right? This whole South Korea situation, they're at a crossroads.
Yeah, it really is. And it shows how connected all this geopolitical stuff is. Like something that happens in Washington or Pyongyang, it can affect the whole region, from trade to security, even people's everyday lives.
And speaking of personal lives, there's some interesting stuff in these reports about Kim Jong-un's sister.
Oh, yeah. Those reports mentioned a story about a defector who met her and her husband back in 2014. Apparently, they met while studying at Kim Il-sung University. It's kind of cool to get a more human side to this family. They're usually so secretive.
Yeah, it is. And then there's that footage of her with some kids. People are wondering about her family life. It makes you think, what's it like growing up with someone so powerful and controversial as your brother?
It does. And it's a good reminder that even with all this global power stuff going on, there are still families with their own hopes and anxieties, all affected by what their leaders decide.
Totally. And talking about human stories, there's that sad detail in the reports about them taking apart the Inter-Korean Family Reunion Center. It was symbolic, showing how fragile things are between North and South Korea.
Yeah, a real visual reminder of the human cost of this whole political and ideological divide. It's easy to focus on the big geopolitical picture, but we can't forget about the individual lives, the ones shaped and sometimes broken by these events.
So true. Okay, so we've covered a lot here. Trump's peace plan, the mystery of those North Korean troops in Ukraine, South Korea maybe getting nukes, and these trade wars brewing. It's a lot to process.
It is, but it's fascinating how everything's connected. Each event kind of affects the others. It's like a big tapestry where every thread makes the whole pattern.
Exactly. So for those listening, what are the key takeaways? What's the big picture we should be thinking about?
I think the main thing is that we're in a time of massive change. Old ways of thinking are being challenged, and new power dynamics are popping up. It's a time to be careful to question what we think we know and understand that decisions made today have big consequences on the line.
And it's not just about know what's happening, but thinking about what it all means. For example, if South Korea does develop nuclear weapons, how does that change things in the region? What will China and Japan do? How about the U.S.?
Those are important questions, and we can't know for sure what'll happen, but we can explore the possibilities, think about the risks and the chances, and have real discussions about the path we want to take as a global community.
And that's where you, our listener, come in, because this isn't just about watching from a distance. It's about understanding how it all might affect you, your community, your world.
Exactly. So as we go deeper into these topics, we want you to think, critically question the things you hear, and consider all the different perspectives.
Because in a world as complicated as ours, knowledge is power. The more we know, the better we can handle the challenges and grab the opportunities that come our way.
Now, talking about challenges and opportunities, let's go back to South Korea. Imagine you're advising the South Korean president. What are the three most important things you'd think about when deciding whether to develop nuclear weapons?
It really makes you think, about how big a decision this will be for them. It's not just about the military or politics. It's about South Korea's future, keeping things stable in the region and trying to avoid things going wrong.
Exactly. And I think it's important for all of us to really think about these things. No matter where we live or what our background is, the choices these world leaders make, they have a big impact. It goes way beyond just their own countries.
For sure. So as we wrap up this deep dive into these reports from February 14th, 2025, we want to leave you with this. We've looked at all these relationships, the shifting alliances, the chance of conflict, and those human stories that are at the heart of it all.
And we've encouraged you to think for yourself, challenge what you hear, and look at things from different angles.
Because in a world with so much information but not always a lot of understanding, being able to really dig in to connect the dots to see the bigger picture, that's what helps us make smart decisions and create a future that works for everyone.
So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep learning. This isn't the end, it's just the beginning.
That's it for this deep dive. Until next time, keep diving deeper. TSEI Food.